Oh, I guess I just wanted to bring this up because I guess spring is kind of like fertility and I'm already pregnant. So do you know of
Hmm.
any like taboos or like wives' tales for like Navajo women who are
Yeah,
pregnant?
leaves it
Well,
babes.
I guess I'll just say the ones that like I hear all the time is like you're not
Yeah.
supposed to plant watermelon or be in the
Mm.
cornfield at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second time around, my Nelly said I'm not supposed to own a dog or sew anything.
Mm.
I don't know
I know.
why. No one gives me reasons why. They just say don't do it.
Well, they say that if you're sewing or weaving or even like they say tying your shoes or like your husband is roping, like say he's working with the animals or he does rodeo or something, they say not to do that. You're not supposed to be like tangling or making knots because they say it affects like your umbilical cord. So sometimes the umbilical cord gets tangled and sometimes it gets tangled around the baby. So they say you're not supposed to do that. If you are tying knots, it's going to make your labor really hard, they say. So that's why they always tell ladies like don't wear shoes, wear sandals or slippers, you know what I mean? Like don't tie your shoes or have someone tie it for you. Like or don't be weaving, don't be sewing, all of that because it's going to make your labor that much more difficult or it could cause complications for your baby. And if you do that, then before your baby is born, you're supposed to get a ceremony done for the baby where they do this where they untie like string and what it does is it loosens everything up so you have a nice smooth labor. Like that's what I had done for me with my son.
That sounds like representational magic.
Hmm. Sounds like it, huh?
Well, I don't know. I feel like a lot of Navajo like traditions are representational magic where like they have an
Mm-hmm.
item to represent, like you were saying, like the ropes and stuff, or like tying represents tying of the umbilical cord and everything, and then
Mm-hmm.
unknotting it is also the same as like
Mm-hmm.
doing that.
Yeah, and then it's accompanied by like songs, songs and
Mhm.
prayers that go to the baby so that the baby is born healthy and there's no complications and you yourself as a mother, you have a safe delivery too that's not like harmful or damaging because, I think yeah, childbirth is dangerous. People don't realize that. But anyways, um, and then a few others I've heard, like, or I know, like the instructions I was given were like, you really have to take care of what you ingest through your eyes and your ears, you know what I mean? And so like um it's not recommended to um indulge in, violence, indulge in like this could be through movies, this could be through poetry, this could be through podcasts, you know what I mean? This could be through YouTube. Like you have to be really careful what you expose yourself to because all of that exposure goes to the baby. So like things like horror, things like violence, things like even like murder mysteries, all of that, like you don't do that. You just kind of leave it alone. um you know, they say you're supposed to really be like cognizant of what you're exposing yourself to. So, kind of things that are going to benefit the baby, so like things that are good and pure and happy, and things that are going to boost its, mental capabilities and things like that. And of course, just talking to the baby too, building that connection, because they say that the baby can hear you and the baby can feel your emotions. So if you're exposing yourself things that like make you feel afraid, or even sometimes that fear causes exhilaration, right? And that's why I think people like to expose themselves to that sort of stuff, that exhilaration. To the baby, it's just fear. So you're introducing the baby to those emotions because it can kind of feel what you're feeling. And when your body is exposed to certain things too, on a scientific level, it releases certain chemicals, right? And sometimes those chemicals cause stress, and you're inadvertently you're causing your baby unnecessary stress. So that was when I was told. And then another one too is like my mom and her, like our whole family, they always talk about how you're supposed to be really careful not to be angry. Like you have to really take care of your emotions. So not put yourself in situations where like know your triggers, right? No, don't put yourself in situations where you're going to be angry, because anger is really powerful. And so they say you have to really keep your emotions in check. and take care of yourself. You really have to be careful with how you think and how you feel, because sometimes when we're mad, we start thinking dark thoughts, or we start thinking vengeful thoughts, or we start thinking like just mean thoughts, and that can be really bad for the baby too. So if you don't keep your emotions in check, that's kind of running rampant, and that's what you're exposing your child to also. So those are some of the instructions I got. And then what else? I remember I was told not to, like, if you partake in the ceremonial cycle, there's certain ceremonies you're not supposed to attend when you're pregnant, because the baby's susceptible to a lot of the things that are unseen, right? Whether people call it spirits or energy or even like evil things, the baby is still, they say that babies are still not entirely in this world yet. They're still in that place where they can interact with the holy people. Like the dimension they're in, it's still this really, they're not here on earth yet entirely, like in the realm that we're in. So even after they're born, before their first laugh, they're still kind of in between, and so to expose them to certain things, or where there could be evil, or where, like, say someone's getting a ceremony where there's death involved, where like someone had maybe gone to war, or they had been a part of violence, or they lost someone and there's a lot of pain and grieving and sorrow, or there's a lot of evil around them, you don't want to expose your baby to that, because the baby it's in that realm where it can still see it, it can see what we can't see, it can feel what we can't feel. That's what they say. That's what I was told too. So just being really careful about the child, and kind of like just taking care of yourself. You know what I mean? Like, it's a perfect time to incubate yourself and just surround yourself with things you love that make you happy. And also, like, it's a really good opportunity too to like keep certain people away from you that are going to upset you. Oh, exercise. My mom told me that it's always good to be active, but not overly active, so nothing that's really, really strenuous, like lifting heavy weights, of course, or like exercise, like running for very, very long distances, but to remain active, because she said that if you remain active throughout your pregnancy, you're going to have a easier labor, as opposed to if you're just sedentary the whole 9 months, you're going to have a really hard labor. So that was something that I was instructed to do. So my grandma used to always tell the girls, like, you need to be outside, you need to go for walks, you need to, like, nothing strenuous, but you need to be moving a lot, and you can do that through like house cleaning, or going for regular walks every day, or jogging, but nothing too strenuous.
See, like when you explain things, you don't make them sound like weird wives' tale taboos,
Mm. Oh.
which I feel like a lot of like my family does to me.
Mm.
And they're just like, "Oh, you can't have a dog." It's like, "Okay." Or like, "You
Mhm.
can't sew anything." It's like, "Okay." Um or like, "You're not allowed to plant anything, especially watermelon." It's like, "Why?" But they never explain why. Like those are always the
Huh.
instructions I get. Like, "Oh, you don't do this and you don't do that." There's no further instructions or reasoning behind it. That's why I
Mm.
always feel like a little funny about taboos, because I was never
Yeah.
given like reasons. I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
And I
because
think,
that's just what they say. It's like, okay.
yeah, and I always like kind of push back, like, why, I want to know why this is said. Like, I never heard about the thing with the watermelons, but when my daughter was having her kinalda, she was carrying watermelons, and they were like, don't carry watermelons, or melons. And I was like, why? And then I don't know if this is real, but the lady that was there, the cake boss, she was like, if she's carrying watermelon, she's gonna have really big boobs. And and that's not good. You know what I mean? It causes like back problems and stuff later in your later years. And she was like, it's gonna also affect her ability to run. So don't let her. And I was like, I just started giggling like a dork. I'm just like, me and my daughter were like, this is really awkward. Which it shouldn't be,
You
but it
should
was.
have carried watermelons when you were little, Adrian.
I know. I should have. but I didn't.
That's what one of the teachers at like when I went to Cameron school, they had like a tether ball and all the girls
Mhm.
were playing with it, and the teacher came up to us like, "You girls aren't supposed to be playing balls because you're gonna get big boobs." And we're like, "It's just a ball. What are you talking about?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, people say the funniest things, and I don't know what it's grounded in because sometimes they don't explain everything. But yeah, I think I mean with pregnancy though, it's cool because I use it as a time to really prioritize me, to take care of myself. And um, an interesting thing too is like with talking to your child, some people, I don't know if everyone does this, but I remember that when I would talk with my child when they're in my belly, it almost felt like when they were born, we had this understanding already. Like they knew me and I knew them. Like we were learning about each other's personalities because I could feel their energy. You know what I mean? Like the sense of understanding and knowing, which I thought was really cool. And I know I don't know if everyone experiences that, but I felt really lucky that I did.
It
But
was
I don't
just
know if
funny when you were saying like violent movies or different like horror stuff. I like to listen to true crime podcasts.
Mhm.
And I was just thinking about how you were saying like the baby absorbs that, and like I'm just thinking about how my daughter, she was born and chose violence right away. Like she wouldn't I didn't teach her to bite or punch. It's just she came out swinging and biting people who were annoying her. And that like a week old, she was already biting people and like throwing
Mhm.
punches.
Hmm.
And my mom was like, if I didn't see her be born and see her entire life knowing, I would have thought you taught her to do that. I'm like, nope, that's just how she came. She came out a little ball of violence. I'm sorry. But then she's also like the most compassionate person.
Mhm.
Like she really cares deeply for people. But like if you don't ask her, like if you just take her food, she gets
Mhm.
really mad. But if you're like, hey, can I have some French fries? Like, yeah, you can have as many as you want. It's just
Aw.
you need to ask first. Otherwise,
Mhm. It's the
yeah.
principle, right?
Yeah.
She just smashed it into his face. Yeah.
Not a very Navajo friendly. It's like a weird label you're putting on yourself.
They protect us, they guide us, And my father, he worked in law enforcement, so he was.
You witnessed police pulling over cars.
If you got to slap a senator, you slap a senator. Incorporating language and cultural aspects into. Who's your celebrity crush?
Pass.
It's at a point where you're just like, what am I doing?